Thank you, Eric. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Mr. Larry Pratt, Executive Director of Gun Owners of America. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Larry Pratt.
I was over in the city just a little bit ago, and it's so much better being in America right now. I feel a little better dressed, you know what I mean? I had to marvel at the chutzpah of former President Clinton, who was warning us to be civil in our remarks, lest we might contribute to another Oklahoma City. This is the guy whose Attorney General thinks a barbecue is burning a bunch of people in Waco. And he's lecturing us about being civil? These socialists are so full of themselves, I think they might actually believe their own stuff, which is what makes them so dangerous. The other thing that I would observe is that obviously somebody's got to tell Janet Napolitano that the enemy is here. You guys are such a bunch of terrorists, and she's going to figure it out. Now, when she was governor of Arizona, she said, we don't have a border problem here, but she knows about you guys because you believe in guns and God and all those yicky things that all us progressive types, we've gotten that behind us now. Government schools. And in the government school, you don't really get taught how government is supposed to work, that it's actually all under God and then a constitution thingy, and it's not a democracy where when you get 51% you can do any bloody thing you want. And these guys actually think, well, we won, we can do anything we want, and that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a guy who thinks he has and should have all power, and he's behaving that way. And you know, that was the same attitude that George III had, and I would recommend that they go back and get a re-education and find out what happened to George III. He actually ended up in a nut house, and kind of like the city over there. The firearms debate is going to go on. As long as there's a struggle for freedom. And there's always going to be a struggle for freedom, because there's always going to be somebody that thinks they know more than we do and they're better than we are, and they're doggone well going to tell us, and if we don't like it, they're going to do whatever they have to do, including barbecue. Well, when that long train of abuses was being suffered by our forefathers, they began to become convinced that a line had to be drawn in the sand, particularly after those city people. The folks in Boston fell for the, well, this is for your own good, let's register your guns. And after the guns were registered, the Brits did what all registering authorities want to do. They confiscated their guns, and then they banned the importation of guns and ammo. And then when they started to shut down the operation, the meetings of legally sanctioned militia, that's when George Mason knew that something was going to happen, particularly after the government shot at the people at that little thing called Lexington Green. And he penned the phrase, a well-regulated militia. Now, he wasn't just talking about something that George III could play with. In fact, he went on to explain in the same breath, a well-regulated militia represents the embodiment of the power of the people. So right here is a sovereignty device. And when you take away my sovereignty device, you've just committed a coup d'etat. You've just removed the sovereign's tool from the sovereign. That's what's wrong with that city over there. They are a bunch of disarmed people who actually, I think, invited in the the tanks and whatnot to disarm them. They seem to think that's cool. They've got the Stockholm Syndrome. God forbid we ever get used to the tyranny that we're being saddled with in this country. It's still relatively soft. But you know, when we pass laws that say that a doctor's opinion can lead to you losing your right to keep and bear arms without a trial, without any due process, man, we are so close to the way they did it in Nazi Germany, the way they still do it in Castro's Cuba. You know, Castro has some utility. He actually frightens a lot of the Hispanics in this country. I was talking to one in my church, and Obama was her default position, I know, the last election. And she now is alarmed by the guy, and what turned her channel was Castro congratulating President Hussein about his new health care, that you finally caught up with us. Caught up with Cuba. Isn't that marvelous? That ought to help educate a lot of people that we have a government that doesn't have a clue that it works for us, that it is we the people who did hereby establish and ordain this government. And you know what? We can just unestablish it too. That's part of that same Declaration of Independence that told the world that we were finished being pushed around by a little fat boy over in England. Now, thank you. I think what we should do is this wouldn't help to change the wind because then they would just keep it we need to be looking at these elections as the way we're going to solve some of our problems. And don't think you wait until this coming November. We've got primaries going on still in many, many states. And this is the time for all us gun-owning voters to go rhino hunting. Now, in case you don't know, a rhino is a Republican in name only. And these are people that have been facilitating the Socialists and the Democrat Party, and it's time we get rid of the rhinos. They belong on our wall, not in our offices. Now, it's starting to happen. There's been a revolt against Washington's anointing of candidates. It's going on in the Florida Senate primary for the Republican nomination. It's going on in the Kentucky nomination fight. And in both those places, real Americans are leading the rhinos. And now out in Utah, about 3 weeks ago, very uber-liberal Senator Bob Bennett, Republican, I think he met his Waterloo. They had precinct caucuses, and he's probably in third place, maybe fourth. They're going to have a convention in a little bit less than a month, first Saturday of May, and I think we're going to see that one more rhino is going to be put on the wall. It's happening, folks, and it's happening right now. But while you're hunting, take along enough ammo that you can not only take a look at federal rhinos, but you want to look at state and local rhinos, particularly sheriffs. And